Okay, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I originally wanted to start my Play and Explain series, which I promise will be coming soon. But unfortunately, I played for half an hour yesterday on two tables of 10 and L, and it was just really boring. Nothing of note happened really at all, apart from two or three hands, which I'm going to take some time to look at today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the live section of when we actually playing the hand, and then we're going to go into Poker Tracker and look in a little bit more detail. But also I just want to say thanks again for all the support, the comments, likes, subscriptions. I really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's hop into the first hand. Certainly 3-betting the queens. Could have maybe tacked on an extra big blind a bit deeper here, to be fair. And we're certainly going to be 3-betting also with ace king. King 6-10 is going to be really good for us pretty often. This is one of the hands that I'm probably going to choose to check back with, though. You can certainly bet with everything here for a small sizing, though. That seems pretty fair. But I am going to check this back on this occasion. Bit of pot control. Bets 10 on the turn. Obviously, now that we've done that, we cannot fold this turn. But we're certainly going to be very cautious on this river. That's a pretty good card. Obviously makes it less likely that he has a king. And he's going to want to put some pressure on me quite a lot. I think this is probably our best call down. To be fair, we don't have a spade. Starting with a check on the left. This is a pretty bad board. We don't have a spade, and we also block king queen. So of my calls, this is going to be the best probably. Blocking queen jack isn't great, but I think I'm just going to struggle here to find a fold with this particular combo. Oops, I'm trying to throw things out in there. Yeah, that's just an unfortunate spot where I'm just going to have. I know that people don't think I'm going to win there very often, and I'd probably agree. Okay, so very interesting first hand. Folds to the cutoff, who makes it 3 big blinds, and we raise to 9. I'd much prefer to make this 10 or 11, as I've said in the live section. Being 160 big blinds deep, we want to put a bit more pressure on him. This doesn't really do that, but it's not the end of the world. It just means that he's going to have a lot more hands than he might have done if we'd made it like 11. Flops king 10-6 and rainbow, which is obviously going to be quite good for us quite often. And he elects to check, which he's going to do with everything. I don't mind just betting everything here. Simplifying our strategy and just betting everything here seems fine for a small sizing. I can't see how that could be too bad. But I like to have a checking range here. And when I check, stuff like obviously queens and jacks and maybe ace 10, and then just throwing in the occasional pocket 10s, maybe pocket kings on such a dry board. Certainly pocket kings I'd consider checking behind to protect this kind of hand. Maybe even pocket 10s. Maybe a hand like king 10 that locks up the board quite strongly, that we don't really mind seeing too many turn cards on. But certainly pocket kings is like my best trapping hand here that I might want to check back. But then again, we are quite deep, so maybe I want to bet with that as well. So I don't mind betting a whole range here, but as played, I do decide to check, which I think is okay, provided that we have some strong checkbacks as well. Turns a 4 of spades, which looks pretty innocent, and our opponent leads. So obviously he has not the most king X in the world, because even though we're very deep, he's definitely going to want to 4-bet ace king quite often. And king queen, we block king queen of hearts here, and we block, which we'll look into more detail soon, but we do block some king queen offsuit combos, which aren't out of the realms of possibility. He can also have like king 10 suited. He can have pocket 6s, pocket 4s, because of the raise size pre. I don't think he'd fold either of those, and I don't think he should. So he can certainly have those. But then he's going to have some like obviously spade combos, which we unblock. We do block some straight draws, which isn't great. But the spade combos are obviously still there. Stuff like 8-9, maybe even of clubs, something like that. He might choose to bluff with here. Obviously, after we check about the flop, we can't ever be folding this turn. But certainly proceeding with some degree of caution. He can have some good hands, but he certainly has enough bluffs for us to be continuing quite happily here. And this river card is very interesting, actually. Probably the most interesting river card you could put out there, because now we don't block suited king-queen anymore. And I would say king-queen is going to be quite a high portion of his value range. It's just a matter of whether he has king-queen offsuit when I only make it 9 big blinds. And I'm not convinced that he will. Obviously, it's not that attractive to be paying the rake, to be calling, and obviously you're out of position in a big pot with king queen offsuit. It doesn't feel great. So I don't know whether it's too optimistic to say that blocking king queen offsuit here is a strong consideration. But certainly he shouldn't have like too much king X, right? He might have king jack suited. He might have king 10 for sure. He can have king 10. Ace king's not going to be in there too often, but certainly king 10. King jack 6s and 4s is the hands we're looking at losing to here. So when he bets 30 into 40 on the river, we're in a real tough spot because obviously, like I said, when we check back the flop, which I'm going to do with, maybe queens, jacks, ace 10, and then pocket kings, and the king comes on the river, it's much less likely now that I have a trapped strong hand. So our opponent gets to be very aggressive here, knowing that our against general pool, checking back the flop on king 10-6 isn't going to be very balanced. So we're going to have a lot of this kind of thing. So I don't mind calling here sometimes with queens and jacks, blocking those king, queen, king, jack hands. But I would much rather have the queen of clubs, because that means I can block king, queen of clubs, which is I think going to be a hand that he does this with all the time. We don't block that, so he can have that. And like I said, king 10, 6s and 4s as well. I think he's going to have it every single frequency. I don't think there's anything that he would have done differently at any stage of the hand. So I end up calling in the hand, obviously, and I don't mind it, given that what we've spoken about, me having, with the king on the river, I don't have many trapped hands that are really strong on this board, apart from maybe pocket 10s or king 10. So I'm going to be struggling for good hands here, and this is probably going to be one of the best hands that I have that isn't, king 10 or pocket kings. So it puts me in a real tough spot. I think we can maybe fold this and just call if we have like queen of hearts, queen of clubs, because then we block king, queen of clubs, which I think is really good to have. Obviously, ace king I don't think is going to be too frequent. He's not going to show up with that very often, but certainly king, queen of clubs he's going to show up with. It would be nice to block that. It's just a matter of whether king, queen offsuit is a consideration. I don't think we can rule it out, but I think it's on the optimistic side. So I'm wondering whether we get run over here if we fold, but also it would be really nice to have the queen of clubs for the reasons I've said. So I think maybe even, we could consider ace 10 as well without a spade. Obviously not having a spade is really good, because he's going to take like 8-9 of spades or queen jack of spades for sure. I can't see why you would not want to bet with those here, because you're going to need to be pretty balanced here when you're going to have like 6s, 4s, king 10, etc. So I'd prefer to see our opponent obviously bluff with those hands, and if he does have those hands, I'd expect him to do this pretty often. So we can't just fold everything, but it would be really nice to block some more value. It's, like I said, optimistic to think that we block king, queen offsuit here, but I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that he would play this exactly like this if he did. So it's a very tough spot, and I'd like to see what people think. I think my overall preference seeing the hand afterwards is going to be that I call with queen of clubs, queen of hearts, or queen of clubs, queen of diamonds, and then fold this particular combo so that I can block one more value combo. But not having a spade, if I had the queen of spades, this is a very, very easy fold, I think, for sure. So definitely not to have the queen of spades, but I would also like to have the queen of clubs. But I am concerned about being like in a spot where I'm not going to have like really many very good hands here, which leads me to think that this call is going to be somewhat okay as well. So I'm interested to see what people think, but we do call, and he has the pocket 4s, which is certainly part of his range. So a very interesting hand, and let me know what you think about it in the comments, and we'll move on to another. And this next clip is going to have both our second and third hands in it, one on the left and one on the right table. So we're going to just watch that whole footage, and then we're going to look at both consecutively afterwards. We're going to make this, we're not deeper, so we can just go ahead and make this 13, I think would be fine. Maybe 14, just tack on an extra. With the queens, blocking king, queen is a fair consideration, I would say, because not only do we... 2 seconds. So let's go for, obviously, a c-bet here, and I think small is best, and defend against this guy with the ace-jack, and this is probably a clear fold now. And out of position, I prefer to just get this in. If I was in position, I could certainly take a card off with the ace of hearts. This guy's going to have a set sometimes. I don't really expect him to be bluffing too often when we have. I'm going to call here with ace high and turn pretty well. I don't expect him to have, I'm just going to get it in and explain later because I don't want to time out. But I don't expect him to have like too many bluffs considering we have the ace of hearts, but he's going to have a really good price with that anyway, and I'm not really sure what he's doing, but this is kind of the reason why we want to do what we're doing anyway, and that seems like a very reasonable turn card to be seeing. On the right, we called flop, and obviously we have to call turn. And then if he jams, we have a pretty gross spot. He obviously reps like overpairs really well. We do block aces, which we can consider, but he's going to have some diamond draws that did miss. This is pretty close. You bet small and bet again on the turn, and then jammed river. I don't expect him to check back ever with an overpair, and he obviously does have all of them. This is super close. Having the ace of clubs, I'd prefer. If I didn't have the ace of clubs, I think I would call, but I think without it, I'll fold. So in our next hand, we have pocket aces on the small blind, and a pretty bad looking player limps under the gun. And the button isolates for 4 big blinds. He doesn't have to have a great hand to do this with, and we elect to 3-bet, obviously, to 14 big blinds. I don't think there's too much to talk about there. The sizing, I think, is fine, and our opponent elects to call. So we see 3 jack 6, 2 hearts. He's not going to be doing very well on this board. Obviously, we have all the overpairs. He's going to have pocket jacks, I think, probably always. And he's going to have probably pocket sixes, maybe sometimes, but not always. And pocket threes, I think, would be a little bit optimistic from him. But stuff like eights, nines, tens, he's going to have all the time. He can have other good hands on this board, like king, queen of hearts, maybe even queen, 10 of hearts sometimes. So he's not struggling, but he's certainly not doing as well as I am. And we elect to continue for a small sizing as a result, which I think is good. And he elects to raise very, very big. The raise size is obviously too large no matter what, I think. So what do we think about this? We can either call or we can obviously elect to go all in now. My general strategy is to move all in if I'm out of position, because if he had something like king, queen of hearts, then we don't really want to just call and let him realize his equity. He's going to have to call off with that now anyway because of how much he's made it. And like I said in the live section, he's not going to have that many bluffs because I have the ace of hearts. He's not going to have like 5-4 of hearts. He shouldn't anyway. So pocket jacks, I think I'd at least expect him to slow play at some frequency. So there really isn't that many hands left that he can really have. Like for value, I guess pocket six is going to want to do this. Obviously, I don't like the sizing with any of those hands, but we certainly can't rule that out. But I think he might end up just having not very much value here too often, apart from specifically jacks and sixes, obviously. And the rest of it is going to be draws. And with the size he's made it, he has to pile it in with those hands anyway. So I think that going all in at being out of position is probably better. Even though we do have the heart, generally speaking, I'd prefer to just call with the heart because our hand needs a lot less protection. But I think given his sizing, we elect to go all in, which I think is completely fine. And our opponent decides to call with pocket tens and makes it on the turn. Obviously, we're only really concerned with our play getting it on the flop, which I think is obviously fine. And we're unfortunate to see the 10 on the turn, but that's just one of those things. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. But I don't think too much to say about my play there. We could consider slow playing the flop, just calling the raise. But I think I think for the reasons I've described, I do definitely prefer to just get it in on the flop. We're very unfortunate, but we're going to move into the last hand, which I think is a very interesting one. So without further ado, I'll go and grab that now. So the last time we're going to look at is the ace jack, and it folds to us on the cutoff when we decide to open, and an opponent we don't know much about, but it does look aggressive over the sample, decides to make it 9 big blinds, and I don't think we can read too much into that small of a sample. But here we have a situation where we can go all one of 3 ways here. I don't mind just randomizing, but 4-betting certainly seems reasonable. If we had a few more hands on him and he was this aggressive, then 4-betting as a bluff seems fine. Calling, I think, is okay. Obviously, it's not good to play rake, but I certainly don't mind defending with this hand. And then our other option is fold, which I also think is fine too. So you could go any way here, really. I do elect to call on this occasion, and we see a flop. And I think that it would be fair to check fold this to any larger sizing than this. But against this, I think that with the 2 overcards and the ace high, if he is aggressive, which he may well be, obviously it's a small sample, but he could be. I think that we can at least call once here. He might decide to check back some better ace highs as well. But we still have some decent equity against some hands that he could have, like pocket nines, pocket tens. I think it would certainly be too premature to go ahead and fold here. So we do decide to call, but not going to be happy about that many turns, right? He's going to have loads of overpairs. Obviously, we do block some of them, which is nice. But he's certainly doing very well on this board. He can probably have pocket eights the same as we can. And, you know, we probably don't have, either of us have pocket fives, I wouldn't have thought. So he's going to be doing much better than I am, and I'm going to have a few draws. But in terms of made hands, he's certainly beating me quite well. And I think that this sizing is therefore a really good sizing from him. And we elect to call because I don't think we can fold for the reasons I've described. The turn is probably one of the best turns we could see. And we elect obviously to check, which we're doing with everything. And our opponent bets 18. Now, obviously, it's starting to be a little bit more of a dicey spot. Our opponent still has, you know, queens plus at every frequency. We do have the ace of clubs, so we block one combo. But, you know, this is a situation where we don't really have any other options than call, I don't think. You know, going all in, we're only going to get called by overpairs, I think, or, you know, obviously pocket jacks and pocket eights. So I don't think we need to do that. Folding is definitely out of the question because, you know, we've improved to one of the best cards we could have seen. So we certainly have to see a river, and we're going to be in a lot of tough spots. But, you know, that's just how poker is sometimes. So we elect to call, which I think is the only play we have. And the nine of spades, I would expect him to probably check back the turn with pocket nines. So it's not a hugely significant card. So when we check and he jams, we have a really tough spot, I think. Now, I talked about this in the live section. I think that having the ace of clubs is very bad. In some ways, obviously, we do block some aces combos, which is nice. And we do block top boat. But I do think he's going to be doing this with queens, kings, and aces at every frequency. I don't think he would do this with ace jack, but he may for value, but it is thin. So queens plus, certainly at every frequency. I don't think there's any particular point in the hand where he would have done anything different whatsoever. So we are up against that, and that's, you know, obviously a strong range. I think pocket eights is certainly in there. Pocket nines, like I said, I don't think so. So we're in a tough spot here where I think that he's going to have enough value that we have to split our ace jacks into some calls and some folds. And I think that the easiest way to do that is just to call when we don't have the ace of clubs or ace of diamonds, or the jack of diamonds. So I can call here with maybe like ace jack of hearts, or, you know, ace of hearts, jack of spades I can call with, because I'm unblocking his nut flush bluffs on the turn, all of them. So that's going to be quite a significant portion of hands, like, you know, ace king of clubs. I think he would certainly consider doing this with, which we block. So if we didn't block any of those bluffs, I think we'd have a clear cooldown. And I think that obviously in the micros, you're going to be in a situation more often than not where people don't have enough bluffs. So we need to choose the hands that we cool down with very carefully. And if we do block some significant bluffs from our opponent, then I think we're just going to have to go ahead and fold and choose some better cooldowns, which I do think we have. So given how well he reps queens plus as well, I think that we have a fold here. I think there are several situations or places in the hand where we could have played this differently. I don't mind folding pre or four betting. I don't think we can do anything but check call flop as played. Certainly can't do anything other than check call turn as played. And then this river is close, but I think given that we're blocking, you know, some bluffing combos, I think this is a fair fold. And then I would be considering calling down here with ace jack of hearts, ace of hearts, jack of spades seems like a fair reason to call down with there, because we'll block so much other stuff. So let me know what you guys think of these hands. I think they're really interesting. Yeah, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Hopefully get some interesting discussion going about these. And I will hopefully see you next time with a play and explain on the next video. So thank you very much again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.